we have a great guest returning. He is a superb human being, a fantastic writer, historian. He just honestly just keeps on coming out with great content. He's here to talk about his latest book, which was released, if I'm correct, via Kickstarter on his birthday, which was June 14th. Everybody, the one, the only, Paul Kupperberg.
Oh.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah!
Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lion-O, command it. Thundercats, ho! And you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. This is Leo, I would be your monkey behind the keyboard, but I was unpacking and I got stuck in a box. So if you could take it away, Carrie. Hey, everybody. Things keep happening to poor Leo. I don't know what we're going to do. But tonight, what we're going to do is you're going to have me acting as your monkey behind the keyboard. Ratatosker is just going to get wasted because we have a rainstorm going through and that's what he wants to do. And we have a great show tonight. Leo couldn't make it, but the rest of us are here. We have an awesome guest. And take it away, Jeremy. Oh,
I'm taking it away. You revealed.
I moved you.
Focus.
I pushed the wrong button.
Hey, everybody. It's Tuesday night. You're watching Splash Pages. I'm so glad you're all here. Without further ado, over to Drew. Boo Boo.
Oh, hey, everybody.
Drew.
I'm Drew, and I'm here on Tuesday as I normally am, and I'm glad you're here too. You know, I'm seriously glad.
Let's not make this any more uncomfortable than it has to be. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I went too far. That's my bad.
Too far.
All right.
Welcome back.
Well, hey, Paul.
Yeah. Hi. How is everyone?
Doing great.
Fantastic. Oh,
glad to have you back, sir. It's always nice having you around. And I have to say, I've been reading some of your excerpts. You know, the stuff that you post on your blog, and you know, the stuff that you put on Facebook and such. And this, I'm so excited to read this because I love learning about the cons of yesteryear and stories like that from someone like yourself. And I read I think an excerpt that you did earlier was about old Comic Cons you guys go into and how great. And for me, I think it was the thing that I loved the most was learning the diet at the con has not changed. People are still eating pizza and hot dogs. And,
pizza, hot dogs, and whatever cheap food is nearby. There was a chain in New York. I don't know if it was anywhere else, but in New York City, it was called Tad's Steak Pub.
Yes.
And it was, this is in 1971, 2, and 3, those early conventions I went to. It was still like $1.98 for a steak, a baked potato, and you know, a garlic bread and a soda. So, you know, that was what we splurged on.
We would have been kings.
Oh my God. But compared to that year's money, though, so you know, that's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. I mean, you know, pizza was still like $1/2 a slice, and whatever. So yeah, and of course there was always the ever reliable New York City street dirty water dog cart. So you know,
Absolutely.
I always wonder, Paul, while writers are at cons, what because artists are like doing their arting. What do you do? Yes,
yeah,
that's technical. I've looked
all right,
it up.
no, I'll take your word for it. I've only been in the business for 50 years, so I don't know.
God damn it, Jeremy.
Well, they're handling all their commissions and stuff that they have to do. What do you do besides sign the books? Like, I mean, I'm sure you got tons of signing to do, but like,
there's plenty of that, people coming by and talking and signing, but there is a lot of standing there looking, you know, trying not to look as bored as you really are, because there are lulls. An artist can always sit down and start and work on sketches and stuff. But I'm just kind of, writers pretty much can stand there,
Yeah.
and hopefully somebody will come along and take pity.
Do you collect anything?
Dust.
Dust.
No, I
Oh,
don't. I'm out of the I'm out of the collecting business. I have been for the last 15 years or so, getting rid of things.
oh, really?
Yeah. I've been carrying. When I got divorced in 2009, we packed up the house,
Mhm.
and I had all of this stuff, and I moved to a new place, and I was fortunately there for a while, so I could still keep it. But then I moved and started moving. It's like I can't drag this stuff around the rest of my life.
Right.
It's a lot of heavy paper that I'm mostly never going to look at again. I'm not going to
Mm.
reread it. If I want to reread that book, it's in the library. If I want to reread that comic, I can find it online or a reprint.
Mhm.
So, I've just been getting rid of lots and lots of stuff. And in fact, I just, talked it over with my son. I'm going to donate, my papers and the bulk of my collection of the stuff that I worked on. Yeah, I'm going to be donating that probably to Columbia University, which has a very
Oh,
active. Karen Green, the librarian there, every time I post something on Facebook, she'll message me going, "We need to talk about your papers." So I'm finally gonna do that, and
Consistent.
yeah.
All right. I do have to ask. I would have loved one of the people that you mentioned in your free to approach guest. Like I've met Jim Steranko, but I would have loved to have met Gardner Fox.
Yeah,
I
me
was a
too.
big fan of his early work. So you're talking about thing to sign. I'm like, oh man, because I'm a Starman fan, and I believe he did the first Ted Knight. I believe that was him. He was involved in some capacity, and I remember there had been a first edition on eBay, and I was like, let me see, and then I was nope, not my lifetime.
Yeah, I think he worked on the Golden Age Starman stuff,
Mhm.
and he definitely worked on the revival in the '60s
Yeah,
in Brave and the Bold, the showcase, the Brave and Bold revival with Murphy Anderson.
yeah,
Yeah, no, Gardner Fox was, it coalesced for me not too long ago, where
mhm,
most fans of my age have as their trilogy, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Steve Ditko.
right,
Mine are Gardner Fox, Carmen Infantino, and Julie Schwartz. I was much more of a DC fan. I mean, I started reading comics. There was no Marvel. It didn't
mm.
exist yet.
mhm,
So by the time I caught up to Marvel, I read all of it. You know,
mhm,
I caught up and I read Marvels, and I bought them and I collected them, but
mhm.
the characters were never resonated with me the way the DC stuff did.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
myself
Okay.
a huge Batman fan, so I agree. DC has always been kind of
Mm,
the home base for me. Marvel's
yeah.
kind of not that I've disliked or hated on Marvel, but like it's just on the side. It's not
Well,
my.
I never had a great urge to write for them.
Mhm.
None of their characters really, spoke to me the way Superman did, or frankly, I joke. At some point at DC, I wrote everything from Adam to Zatanna, and it's true. Um, and I was fine. Hand me a DC character, and happy. I can do it. But
Right.
Marvel stuff, not so much.
Mm.
Again, nothing wrong with it. Just
Right.
wasn't, you know, just wasn't what imprinted on me.
So
The
I
name of.
And
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay. No, go.
The name of the book, panel
uh,
by panel. Where does that come from?
That comes from Silver Age writer Bob Haney.
Oh,
Yes, I once asked him what was the secret to writing a great comic book story, and being, a kind of, this is my job, I'm in it for a buck kind of guy. Bob said, "There's no secret. You just write them, page by page, panel by panel." And I always thought that was sage advice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. One of the stories I definitely wanted to ask you is I believe you had one that you posted about involving you and Leonard Nimoy, who, being a Star Trek fan, my dad raised me on the original series, and it's been an actual a good accomplishment of mine that I've got a lot of the signatures from his Star Trek for him. But I again, unfortunately, wasn't able to Leonard Nimoy. But I remember, learning that it was just most people just said it was such a joy to be around Nimoy. I
He
believe,
seemed like a great guy. Yeah.
yeah, but I would love to. I mean, I remember reading when he was doing voice recording for Atlantis that people would just come into the studio while he's reciting the lore or whatever, and they would just sit and
Right.
listen. And I would love to hear like that story, Leonard Nimoy. Like I think you saved his life or something like that.
I saved Leonard Nimoy's life. Yes, more or less. It was at the first Star Trek convention in New York City in what was it, 73, 74.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there. I went. Excuse me.
Oh, take it to
I am not an over-the-top Star Trek fan. I watched the original series. I've
Right.
seen episodes here and there of subsequent series and some of the movies. I've
Mm-hmm.
written comic books. I've written for the Star Trek franchise in prose, but
Right.
like I have to go and study up on it a little.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, it was 19. I went to the Star Trek convention just because
Mhm.
the big overlap of fandom, and it was a convention in New York. So I went
Right.
to hang out. And while I was there, I was talking to the head of security, uh, and he was. It was fairly early in the day, but it was a comic convention, and he
Mhm.
was quite drunk. And we were just kind of goofing around, and somebody came running in from the lobby. We were in kind of this section off the ballrooms, uh,
Mhm.
and someone came running in from the lobby. One of the staffers, and saw Steve, and was going nuts. He's going, "Oh my God, Leonard Nimoy is here, and he's being mobbed, and he's going to get him. You got to do it." So Steve kind of went right, and he looked at me, and he went, "Want to take care of that?" And passed out.
Oh my God.
I don't know what possessed me to, because I am not a brave individual, but fuck it, it was Spock.
Yeah.
So, uh, so I ran out to the lobby, and indeed there was Leonard Nimoy, surrounded by eager fans. And nobody was, there was nothing nasty going on, but there were a lot of people, and this, one poor man. And so me and a couple of other security, convention guys jumped in and kind of surrounded him. And I took his arm and I said, that we were supposed to take him into the ballroom. I said, "Follow me. I'll get you to," so I'm getting battered. I'm getting pushed. My glasses are getting knocked off. And
Uh-huh.
at some point, and I'm just a wise ass kid from Brooklyn. So, uh,
Right.
I just turned to him at some point and go, "Jesus, you're not worth this." And and he kind of laughed in delight and said, "I know, but isn't it wonderful?" Uh, and after that, it's like, okay, I must love him, because that's the perfect answer. So anyway,
Absolutely.
we got him to safety, and he got up into the ballroom, and he got him on stage, and he talked, he did whatever. Um,
Mhm.
and flash forward about 30 years,
Right.
I'm at a licensing show
Mhm.
at the Javits Center in New York City, and
Right.
the New York City licensing show is a massive affair. Every
Okay.
company, this is back in 2000 and I don't know, 3 or 4, whatever it was.
Okay.
Uh, and it was so the movie companies took these massive things, everybody was there. I mean, I met everybody from Lunette from the Big Comfy Couch to
Mhm.
Art Clokey, who, created Gumby, to Bozo. You know,
Wow.
uh,
That's cool.
blanking on his name at the moment, but the guy who had who owned Bozo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm walking by, me and my friend Charlie Kotzman are walking by the Paramount setup, and there is Leonard Nimoy in front of a backdrop, and he's there to do the Polaroid meet and greet.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, there was a lull and there was nobody online, so I figured, well, great.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get a picture. And literally, I forgot all about the convention thing until I get to him, and I shake his hand, and it suddenly dawns on me. And as we're having the picture taken, I said, this isn't the first time we met. He had no idea who I was, and I said, uh, uh, yeah, it was at the first Star Trek convention in New York City in 1970 whatever, and you were getting mobbed, and I was the guy who got you to the ballroom to safety. And he was like, "That was you?" And he thanked me again. So,
oh man,
that's my encounter with Spock.
That's pretty cool, though.
That's pretty awesome. That's wow.
Yeah.
So, it's one thing that I'm curious about, because I'm always trying to write down things that have happened to me, and some of it is because I'm terrified of one day I can't remember anything, but also I don't want to lose all the details. How do you have you been writing these things down, or you just have that kind of like, I think it's what
I'm just making this shit up on the spot. It's fine. No, a lot of them are just anecdotes I've told over the years, and I don't know. It just, as I started working, it started off as a much larger book. I was going to do, like an autobiography thing, which covered, parts of my life which were not pleasant as well. And that got out of hand, and so I just kind of I broke it in two. I wrote my trauma memoir. That's written. I haven't published it yet, but and then I took the rest of it and made my comic book memoir. So as you're writing this stuff, you just start remembering other stuff. One thing triggers another incident. You think about this person, and you go, "Oh, right, that happened when I was in the room with him," or whatever. It just. And I was also fortunate that I do hold on. I did hold on to a lot of paper. I have letters that my grandmother wrote to my grandfather in 1919 when he was away in Philadelphia studying to be an electrician. I have my grandparents. I have birth certificates from parents. So I have all this paper. I know the type of car my grandfather died in because I have the bill of sale and the receipt. Wow. The 1926 secondhand Nash that he bought and dropped dead of in front of the Granada Theater in Brooklyn in 1929. A theater where in 1973 I would later be an usher, without knowing about that part of it. But the owner of the theater, I'm just rambling here, but the owner had been an usher when my grandfather was the projectionist at that theater, and he remembered my grandfather. So Brooklyn is a small world.
It is indeed. But all right, I'm good. You guys have any? You guys talk, please. Carrie or Jeremy.
Well,
he answers too much. You guys think of something.
From your perspective, Paul, what actually makes a good Comic-Con?
Accessibility. The just everybody. When these early shows, they were at the hotels in New York or Detroit, or the city they were in, and there was no pretension to them. Everybody was just there. It didn't, Gardner Fox and Joe Kubert and Frank Frazetta and whoever were available. You just had to walk up to them. I was too nerdy that first year to, too scared to walk up to Gardner Fox or whatever, or Steranko, with much to my regret. Although I did have other great experiences. I was online to get a book the autobiography of Kirk Allen, who was the actor who played Superman in the movie series in the 40s. And as I'm waiting online, I turned around and the guy behind me was, a grown up in a suit and tie, but he was the host of a kids show in New York, Bob McAllister, who was the host of Wonderama. So I was like, and suddenly I'm talking like, I'm 16, 17 years old, 16 years
Mhm.
old, and I've never been out of Brooklyn practically. So
Right.
suddenly I'm talking to this guy from my TV show, and then by the time we get up to Kirk Allen, McAllister introduces me as my pal Paul, and so I'm standing there talking with these two Hollywood showbiz people, and it's like over my head, but I'm just overwhelmed because it's like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
I think if you can go to a convention and have that feeling, it's like,
Absolutely.
man, that's the best. That's just
No.
and I still get it. I mean, I think it was 2014. There was
Mhm.
a East Coast Comic Con, and
Okay.
and I had again, I had never met Steranko. Big fan of his stuff. Loved. I was around for when his comics were new, so
Right.
I was buying them off the stand and seeing this stuff firsthand. And uh, I mentioned to I think it was Alex Simmons. Somebody has Steranko was there. He had a big display of all his shadow paintings and stuff. And I said to Alex, I never met Steranko, and he said, "Oh yeah, come on, come on." And he takes me over. Alex and Jim are friends, and he introduces us. And then I'm standing there for the next 20 minutes talking about comics and being told I'm wrong about everything by Jim Steranko.
Yeah, it sounds like Srinko.
Yeah, and then and at some point, Steve Rude joins us, and now
Oh,
we're
man.
talking comic book theory, with Jim Steranko and Steve Rude.
Mhm.
It's like, once again, I'm like, hey, look at me, I'm here with the, So it was, the feeling, I can see.
Yeah. Yeah. I've met quite a few good friends of mine just by standing in line to meet a creator. So, you can't, like you said, you can't underestimate that line friend because you never know.
Well,
That could end up being you end up being a friend that I think that's two terrific cons in a row. I've met good friends of mine who I'm still friends with just
Mhm.
because we were standing online. I remember one of them. I was just standing online to meet Denny O'Neil, and I just started talking to this guy who's Canadian. He drove down from Canada, and I got to know him. By the end of the time, we were friends, and we had dinner. And I'm still friends with him to this day. I know him and his family pretty well, and I see him every once in a while, and it's great. Like you said, that's you never know. So yeah,
I made friends, I made friends in comic book and fandom, in 1968 that I'm still friends with,
right.
Paul Leonard and I met in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
No, it's not. It's Paul. You don't know Paul. It's not that awesome. But
No,
uh,
no, I've taken one of Paul's classes. I know that's
oh,
pretty
good.
awesome.
No, he's a good guy. He really
Oh,
is.
he's great.
You know,
Great teacher.
I had I had a good partner on the journey. To get here.
Yeah. Um. Like I said, I have so many questions. Carrie, go.
Okay, so you've done a bunch of your comic works. You have the I Never Write for the Money, but I Always Turn in the Manuscript for a Check that came out in 2020. And then that was more covering your stuff, correct? And
Yeah, it was more. It
comic
was
book
a collection
industry.
of essays and things I've written about writing and the comic book business and things like that. Yeah.
And then in the direct comments, direct conversations, and direct creativity, which just came out April 17th, I
Right.
believe.
Right.
You got to sit down and talk to all of the different creators that have been friends of yours and generations worth of them, and just checking out. I believe it said, who or what inspired you most in your development as a comic book creator, and all of the
Yeah.
different answers. And you just have wonderful. I mean, I'm not going to screw everything up because I'm going to by trying to say everybody's name who you've interviewed. But so is this basically you interviewing yourself with the same lineup in some of the panel by panel? Do you take kind of a bit of a lead from the way other people answered your interviews?
Well, I try to keep me to a minimum. I mean, I exchange stories and I thought, but I figured like in direct creativity, there's 18 interviews. So, a little bit of me in each interview was fine. I was spread across the entire book. I really was trying to focus on the people I was talking to. Because,
Oh,
I've got Jerry Conway and Mike A. Van Oming and Chuck Patton and Roy Thomas and Christopher J. Priest, Mark Wade, Mark Millar, Mark Guggenheim. A lot of people named Mark. Anybody named Mark, I was interviewing for this book.
It's true.
And it changed my name.
and you had some Dans.
You got a lot of Dans.
Couple
And some
Dans.
Dan, yes.
Yeah, a couple Dans.
Yeah.
What I was saying, what I was meaning, I'm sorry, I didn't phrase that very well. When in panel by panel, is that kind of you answering the same kind of questions that you were asking them?
Oh, yeah. Well, I cover a little bit of everything. It really starts from the beginning when I was picking up comic books that I was too young to read, and it just follows just my obsession with comics through to getting into fandom and then my professional career, and after at DC and other places.
And it was, I believe you were 10 when it was the Flash of Two Worlds, Flash 123, introduced the multiverse. And in the paper, it was on your birthday that it happened.
That's
So you were kind of destined to be in the comic world.
As Mark Wade said when I told him that story, he said, "What a gift."
True story. Absolutely.
Yeah. I had read the story came out in 1961 originally, but I didn't read it until 65 when it was reprinted in a Flash Annual, and it just it wasn't even the first reading. It was several readings where I realized, oh my God, Flash crosses the bridge and he finds himself in Keystone City, vibrating across the dimensional bridge onto Earth 2. And he picks up a newspaper and the Keystone whatever Gazette, but the date on the newspaper is June 14th, 1961. And I was like, by 1965, I knew about the multiverse because I had seen it in Justice League and all that stuff. And I loved it. I loved the idea. I loved the concepts. And to realize that it was, that it was born on my birthday just was like, sucked me in entirely. Whatever, I was a reader before that, an accumulator before that of comics. But afterwards, it was like, I was a fan.
Right.
That's just so awesome.
Who was your first? Who was your first boss in when you got into comics? First editor.
First editor was Nick Cuddy at Charlton Comics.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Charlton.
Yeah. I made my first sales to Charlton in 1975. First half dozen stories or so. I was, trying to break in, so I didn't want to even though I had friends, like Paul Levitz was already an editor at DC,
Right.
but I didn't want to try it at DC and strike out. So I wanted to pop my cherry somewhere. I tried Gold Key. I tried, and then I tried Charlton, and Charlton fortunately went for it. The suckers. But Nick Cuddy bought my first bunch of stories.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's cool.
And
did you just send them in, or was it at a con? Or
no, from 1971 to 73. Paul Levitz and I were publishers of a fanzine called, first it was called Etc., then it became The Comic Reader. And it was a very well-known, back in those days, we eventually had a circulation of about 3,500 a month, which was, this was a little thing we produced originally on Paul's dining room table. And then later we rented his basement apartment in his parents' house to be the offices. But we were a pretty active publisher of fanzines during that time. So I had I wasn't professional, but a lot of professionals knew me just from that association. So I was able to call Nick, and plus I also had everybody's phone number because we were always calling these guys for news for the Comic Reader. I called Nick and said I'd like to send him some some stuff to look at, and he said, "Fine, send it along," and I did, and he bought it. He bought some of it.
That's pretty
$5 a page. Oh yeah.
Woo!
Whoa. So, again, another excerpt that you posted is that you had been on a promo at one point for DC. I believe your phrase is, "Oh, it didn't look awkward at all," promoting DC and such.
It was on FX. Yes.
Yeah, and we've seen slowly that other comic creators are, getting kind of their due in certain media. I mean, Chris Claremont on Days of Future Past, Marv Wolfman during the Crisis on Infinite Earths, CW crossover, and whatnot. Minus your TV debut, which, nice tie, by the way. Have you got a chance to have you been asked to do something like that, whether it's cartoon or TV or film yet?
No, nothing. James Gunn did a shout out to me in Peacemaker, but unfortunately, he left it up to probably an assistant, and they turned out it was a shout out to my brother Alan Kupperberg, which does me squat because I didn't like him, but.
So,
But
I have a question.
Yeah, why didn't I like him? Well, no, go ahead.
Oh,
it's all good.
No, this isn't actually to do with you, brother. This is
that's what my trauma memo is. A memoir. Go ahead.
Go, Carrie.
Are you kickstarting
Okay.
that? Oh,
eventually, yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
Okay, so I like to read outside of the big two a lot and get something interesting or new that I haven't read before when we get a guest on. And so for you, this time around, I read The Golden Pelican.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I am very confused.
Me too.
Oh boy.
So first of all, it has to do with the collective unconscious and archetypes of Jungian principles and things. Yeah. And so I'm confused at first because it was written by Jared Goldwater and then you wrote the script. So how did that work exactly?
Jared had a vague idea and I came up with the whole Jungian thing and all of it. So yeah, it was based on his his broad concept, his big idea, but I wound up writing, creating the situation and he liked the image of pelicans diving into the water.
Okay.
Anyway,
all right.
A gig's a gig. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I finally, I was reading it in the first night. I read the first issue and I was like, and this, if you ask these guys, I read issue 1 and I had to stop because I had to sit there for a second and I had to think a little bit because this isn't just going to get through this comic. This is you really got to put some thought into this and figure out if you haven't had your psychology courses in a while, it's going to take you a few to kind of catch up on it. And I did enjoy it. It was
too smart for me.
It was a very smart comic, yes, but then you never finished it up unless I missed something. It was like, yeah, and the magician showed up, and then it was like, and
yes, there's a cliffhanger. There was never another series. This was one of 2 digital only comics I did with that young man, and and I also wrote a couple of screenplays based on his stuff too, which make even less sense. So,
oh, okay, yeah, okay. So he is the one that's on IMDb as well. I was kind of trying to find him, and I couldn't find any information about him really.
Yeah, but he's the he's the Silver Clyde of the Archie family. So. The gold one. Which one is he? I'm confused now.
There you go.
If you guys need any therapy, Paul can help you here. He's got a pretty good idea of how all the psychology and stuff works. I think
I've got a decent grasp on
trauma
and philosophy. Yes.
Yeah, and the trauma.
Ooh,
Yeah.
excellent.
I'd love to stop paying for therapy.
Right. So speaking of a gig for being a gig, I think one of the more random things, again, that you posted on your blog was your sort of chance writing for the popular series Wishbone.
Yes. Yes.
So
I did actually write for the franchise. There was I co-wrote with Michael Jan Friedman a Wishbone mystery
mhm,
for the Syrian conspiracy. The
yes.
It's for
So,
Cirrus, the dog star, not Syria, the country.
yes.
Yes, I did do one of those, and then I tried to pitch Frankenbone, which is probably not the best name, but an adaptation of Frankenstein with Wishbone as
Mhm,
Victor Frankenstein.
yes.
So
Yeah.
I did write a few chapters and submitted it, but for whatever reason, I guess I didn't hit their high literary standards and didn't get the job.
Yeah. And well, I will say that it's sad because having read I believe the first two chapters you posted, I
Yeah.
was like, man, I would have read this. Heck, I would have gladly watched it adapted on that show.
Please, a
Because
Jack Russell Terrier as great building a monster? Come on.
I know that would be come on. Like I was like, well, what is his Igor? Is it a cat with
I
a
don't know, but
wonky eye?
or he would
You
just
know,
go fetch his own body parts. Go ahead,
right?
go
There
ahead,
you go.
fetch Wishbone. You know.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, and especially I think what killed me is you had a photo of the dog, with like it's Mary Shelley style,
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, I was like, I can't deal with this. I was
yeah,
like, because I remember as a kid, every once in a while, I was like, oh, Wishbone. I was like, look, kids, this is a way to get in touch with your classics. And then I was like, eventually,
Wishbone. Hey.
yeah. And now no one knows who the heck Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer are. They're
Yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah, Wishbone was actually a good show. It did a good job of kind of doing Reader's Digest condensed versions of these things for kids, and
100%.
I mean, I don't know
Hey, listen.
if it would interest them, but
You,
Hey,
you
listen.
have me
Those were not-
thinking that
huh?
this is my mom's dog. Real quick here. This is Peanut.
Okay,
She is half mini Jack Russell Terrier, and when you're saying the dog fight, I just dog as Victor Frankenstein. I can see they're just getting the zoomies, trying to get each body part and running
yeah,
and bouncing off the couch. But then when the storm comes in to get the lightning for it's
under the bed.
alive, like running and hiding under a blanket. Yeah, just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
oh no. That's where the assistant has to come in. Yeah,
Yep, 100%.
I'll get
that would be
this.
glorious.
That sounds great. Write it, Carrie.
We're
Yes.
gonna write it.
Yeah.
Paul just take
All
the
right.
credit.
Yeah, it's fine. Listen, it's comics, man. You gotta make that buck. Gotta get that money.
Doesn't have to be good. It just has to be here by Tuesday.
There you go. Boom.
So,
Easy.
have all of your Kickstarters not had big bonuses and stuff like that?
No, I don't do big bonuses and stuff like that. It's too much hassle and expense and like just buy the freaking book,
I
okay?
like
That's what
that.
I'm selling.
It's like
I will
straight.
be doing I will be doing a stretch goal thing, for this book. I came
Mhm.
up with something that I could do a PD, an interesting PDF that I could offer as a stretch goal thing.
Cool.
But unpublished a bunch of proposals for series that didn't make it. Um, so you know, but yeah, I mean, it's just otherwise you're printing things and you're mailing things, and it's just eating up time and money and effort, and it's like
Mhm.
I'm not selling that stuff. I just want to sell a book.
Right. No, that's a rational way to look at. Okay, so one thing I've always been curious about, like, w- what are the after con dinners like? I've talked to other creators and they've talked about, hanging out after the con, getting out a couple of drinks, just
Yeah,
goofing off and stuff, or have that dinner where you like the kind of the fanboys dream of you're all
yeah,
these all-star creators and y'all are, I don't know, eating at an Italian restaurant and I don't know, getting lit on wine and way too many garlic knots. What are there any stories there
You
that
think
are?
we go to Olive Garden? What is this? No.
I don't know. You guys
Prepare
tell
Well,
me.
yourself.
they had steak pubs. Weren't you listening? Come on.
Right. That's fair. That's right. No, you're right. I'm sorry. I
No,
assumed that once the book sells well.
those are fun. Those are great. It's it's kind of you're relaxed. You're among friends, or at least friends of friends.
Mhm.
You know, there's often that's where you can have the real conversations, and you don't have to worry about being overheard when you're
Right.
speaking the truth. Uh, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I've had a lot of those. I mean, back when I was on staff at DC, a regular scam was the expense account lunch. So you would just run through the halls like, "Come on, I'm taking you to lunch,"
Oh,
Nice.
and you got to do a lot of that. There was one guy in the Michael Golden. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yep.
Yep.
He was on staff at DC in the early '90s when I came on. Uh, and we were in the same department. And Michael was getting Bucky O'Hare royalty checks,
hmm
and they were healthy. And so when he would get a really healthy check, he would buy lunch. But he didn't just like bring in pizzas. We would go next door to the Hilton Hotel into the fine dining room, 10 or 12 or 14 of us.
Right.
And it would be like, drinks and appetizers and meal. And, we weren't worried about being yelled at by the boss because Dick was at the other end of the table drinking Rob Roy's. So, we were cool. And, so those were great. I mean, it was just, a bunch of us from the staff, some freelancers,
hmm
all just hanging out and, drinking, during all working hours. It was a lot of fun.
Very nice.
Sounds like it.
So,
I
what do you
imagine.
stock
I
your?
imagine. Sorry, Karen.
No, go.
No, I
You're
was just saying.
finishing something. So.
Yeah, I was just saying. I just imagine a lot of drunken draw-offs. Characters drawn on napkins that are just like, no, here you go. Here's a
Sophisticated.
No, it's not quite. I mean, somebody
Yeah.
may occasionally just doodle out of boredom, but no, it's not like that. Like,
Mhm.
a lot of times we're not even talking about about comics.
Right.
A lot of times we talk about our families and other stuff. I remember one dinner it was largely about classic movies. Just
Oh,
there
that's
were 10 or 12 of us, and we were all sitting around and yelling out our favorite movies and talking about that stuff. So
See, guys, we have the same
Okay.
kind of dinners that our favorite creators have, where we just eat pizza and talk about random stuff.
Yell at our
pretty
favorite
much,
movies.
pretty much.
There you
We're-
go.
And what
we're-
is your favorite classic movie?
my favorite. I don't have a favorite. I think having a favorite anything is ridiculous because it changes every. But at the time, I remember I was arguing very strongly for as a favorite, "How Green Was My Valley," the John
Oh,
Ford movie set in the coal mines of Wales.
okay.
It's a stunning movie. It's Roddy McDowell as a little boy. But it's a stunning movie. You're watching it, and I'd seen it before, but the last time I had watched it before that, I realized that John Ford, who was probably one of the most important directors in American cinema, in the history of
Mhm.
American cinema, he every scene would resolve into a painting. I mean, you could actually see it's like you went, he's created this painting in the frame, this scene, this situation, and it just kind of resolves into that for a moment, and then moves on. But it's brilliantly, beautifully directed and set. It's an amazing movie. He also did The Quiet Man, which is another favorite movie with John Wayne as a boxer who goes home to Ireland after killing a man in the ring in America. Um, another great movie. But anyway, stuff like that. I don't
Nice.
have any. Well, I do actually. I was going to say I don't have any superhero movies that are favorites, but I do have Superman. The movie, it will always be the sentimental favorite.
When you're at cons, and we're jumping on the cons here because it's con season we're going into, so got to know all that. What are your essentials and the things that you keep at your con table that you need to get through the day?
The heroin and condoms. No.
Nice.
Wow.
Hanging out with
Genius.
Paul at terrific
I'm
con.
kidding. It's cocaine.
I knew it.
I kid. I recently heard cocaine referred to as oh man, it was
The
great.
world's greatest drug. No, I mean,
Booker candy.
No, yeah, I forget. Anyway,
It'll come back
no,
later.
to get me. No, I don't have much. I just need some water or well, coffee, preferably coffee,
Yeah.
but water and or coffee. Maybe something to snack on. But yeah, I mean, I don't. I just try to keep the table.
Okay.
We're making up some treat packs to bribe or to gift all of our favorite folks there. So, is there anything that we could bring by that would make your day?
Oh.
And
I'm
you laugh,
stalking
but
people
still
on
do
this.
it.
Yeah.
Still do
You
it.
don't know what's going on. I have all these things happening right now.
You got a list, man.
Oh, I don't know. I don't really, it's not a thing. I know people come with coolers and all that stuff, and it's like, it's not a priority for me. Just something,
We'll get you some water and some hot dogs.
whoa,
Yeah.
water and hot dogs.
get me Nathan's.
Yeah, there you go. For old time's sake, we'll make sure they put it in the dirty water, just so you could get that
No,
old feel.
Nathan's is cooked on a flat top. So
Fair enough. Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
I don't eat hot dogs, so I wouldn't know that. So,
I do, because
yeah,
they are
well, that's fine.
they are the food of the gods.
You can have my share.
I'm sure
Sorry.
I have. Yes.
Yeah.
And I lived in Chicago for a while, where the Chicago dog is a religion. So
Yes.
It's so good.
oh yeah. And by the way, have you been watching The Bear?
Yes.
Oh no, I want to watch that.
It is
really
so good.
It is amazing. There's one episode in the third season just knocked my socks off. Where the cousin goes to that fight. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where the cousin goes to work in that other restaurant.
Yeah.
Killer episode. Just a killer episode.
I
can't understand why anybody would abandon Chicago beef for fine dining.
I don't know. You're trying to make something better by being unique, but then you forget that the simplicity is where the gold is.
Yeah,
that's what it really comes down to.
A good Chicago beef dunked, please.
I think it's funny watching The Bear. I've worked in a kitchen, and so, like the first season, like I actually had to pause one or two. So like, oh, I'm getting the PTSD is coming back. I'm like,
right.
All the yelling and then I was like, oh boy, oh man, I want to clean something
out. Make sure.
Oh no, it's good.
Be like, boom.
Yeah, it's just like, oh god, I gotta clean something right now, chef. What's going on? No,
yell at me.
And Paul, they definitely get some great guest stars too. Like,
oh yeah,
like just randomly, like, oh wow, you guys got this. Like,
yeah,
like,
I watched it over the course of 2 or 3 days, and
so good,
I was real impressed. Yeah,
it definitely, because sometimes some cooking shows they're a little too. It's just a little too clean. Yeah, it's just a little too clean, a little too zany, a little too scripted. But The Bear, I was like, no. I've worked with these kind of people. Like, this is real shit. Like, especially the fucking around with each other. I'm like, nope, we do that all the time. We used to do it all the time. The playing pranks and stuff. I was like, no, that is a kitchen. But yeah, no, The Bear, amazing, and such a great love letter to Chicago as well.
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah, absolutely.
So
thumbs up.
Yeah, Jeremy, watch it. When those free time moments, my man. I'm gonna go get some water. So I mean, Carrie and Jar are gonna talk. So hey.
Okay, so while we're on hot dogs, I gotta know: is it a
What?
sandwich or not?
Yeah, it's between two slices of bread. It's a sandwich.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't know. I don't know why it's a thing, and it's kind of like that commercial with the dog food in the refrigerator. Why is that a thing?
I haven't seen this. Okay. I worked at a place and we sold a lot of. I've worked in a lot of kitchens too, but one place that I worked at was a hot dog place, and we got all this history of hot dog stuff, and it was they just the amount of disputes going in behind who invented the hot dog and whether it's a sandwich or not always fascinated me, that like there are people that are so adamant about it, and like fights break out. And
No, I understand. I see that
it's
on
just crazy.
that's what
It's
Facebook
like
is all
Yeah.
about.
Star Wars.
People
Yeah.
having arguments about hot dog buns, but yeah, I don't I don't know that it really matters who invented the hot dog, because you're never gonna it wasn't like Irving Hot Dog invented the thing and he's gonna get credit. There's no
Yeah.
individual who's ever gonna be pegged as the creator of the hot dog. So who cares? Let's move on. They're delicious.
I feel
They
the
are.
same
All
way about
right.
pizza.
Pizza, exactly. New
Yeah,
York style pizza,
right,
not New York style pizza, excuse me. New York pizza. That's all
right,
you need to know.
right, exactly. And then people are like, oh, it's an Italian dish, but then you go to Italy and their pizza is not great. I'm sorry, it's again other things in Italy immaculate, just absolutely superb. But pizza, no.
Yeah, well, it's like I say about deep dish pizza. It's
Mhm.
not
Oh
pizza,
God.
but whatever it is, it's very good.
Thank you. Agree. That's the best way to put it. Not pizza,
I,
but
you're,
worth it.
and you're having some now, I see. Yeah.
Oh no, this
I,
is vegetables.
Oh, okay. You didn't bring
Yeah.
any for the rest of us. Okay,
I
Oh
know,
no,
go
right?
ahead.
no, no. To heck to you, to heck to you, heck to you. Good seeing you, Paul. Yeah, no,
So,
no.
Paul,
Good.
you hit your goal in 2 days. Is that
Yeah, that was,
impressive to you?
yeah. It's not impressive. It's humbling. It's very nice.
Hmm.
It's very. I'm very gratified that that enough people wanted to see it. Want to read the book, that they were willing to do that. So yeah, no, look. Every time I hit the goal, it's like I didn't think that was going to happen. I just it's hope for the best, expect the worst.
Hmm.
Wise
How
words.
much is it for
Oh boy.
the stretch goal for the PDF of the memoirs?
I think I'll go for 4,000.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Almost there already,
Are you
actually.
okay? What?
Yep, all good. I'm just
Okay.
You're
absorbing all your knowledge, and I've just got the hiccups.
Oh,
You
you're
know.
well,
almost
I'm
you're
going
over
to make
three
people.
grand now, aren't you?
Hmm?
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Over
you
three
got
grand.
close to that already.
Yeah,
guys, we got to help them get there.
that's right.
Come
PDF
on, guys.
Pro.
Put us over the
16
top.
days to
Buy a
go.
book.
Let's do it.
A mere 16 days. Yes. No, it's great.
Did you have to reach out to anybody before putting out the book to be like, hey, I'm gonna tell this story. I
No,
hope you don't mind.
no. But I did find myself over a succession of a few, revisions and stuff. You're going, yeah, he's an asshole, but I don't think I have to say it in print.
Mm,
And started kind of softening a few things, and I did change some names of people,
mm.
just because, frankly, I don't even want to give them the acknowledgement of using their names.
Ah,
A
Wow.
couple I worked under at DC.
okay.
So
Think you might have
Nice.
mentioned some of them last time you were here, because I remember some like moments.
you might have, but I'm not hesitant to. But I think one of them could be litigious. So
Yeah, fair
Mm.
enough. No need to give them any
Okay.
power.
yeah. No, he was the biggest asshole of the bunch. So
Fair enough.
Did you get sentimental over any of these stories?
I got sentimental over not the stories, but kind of the over the era, over the there was something very magical for me about DC Comics, about the physical place, the offices. When I started going up there as a kid, I took, I went on they used to give tours during in the 1960s. You could gather in in the waiting room at I remember it as being Wednesdays, but other people said Tuesday, other people said Thursday. Whenever it was, you could get up there. They would, somebody would come through and walk you through the offices, show you artists at work and the editors in their offices, the production department, and on your way out, they would hand you like a comic book and a piece of original art, and But yeah, oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then when we started doing the fanzines, and I started going up there on a semi-regular basis, um, it reached a point where where they knew me. The receptionist would see me coming, and I could just walk right in. And then Paul started working there, and other friends were working there. So it was this place I aspired to. I didn't know if I'd ever break into comics or I'd ever make it, at DC if I did. But it sure as hell was the place I wanted to be. Filled with the people I wanted to be associated with. So I did get very nostalgic for that. For that time, because it's gone. I read about it at the end of the book. As soon as I heard that Paul left his publisher in whatever 2010 or 11, I knew that was the end of an era. We were, for the first time in its history, the company was going to be run by somebody who came from outside. Diane, what's her name, was, she came from Warner Home Video or whatever it was.
Right.
And she didn't have a comic book background. She was a business person. He was taking charge of DC Entertainment. DC Comics no longer existed. That was done. And so for the first time in 90, 80 years, 85 years, the company was being run by an outsider. And then a few years later, when they announced they were leaving New York, it was like the end.
Right.
The end. There's no going back. That place will never exist again. And that's kind of sad for folks like me.
Absolutely. 100%, especially people who, like, maybe in New York would be interested in breaking in the industry. Like, they don't have that opportunity, like with you and a few others.
I think I think that kind of opportunity that me and my peers, we hit at a kind of unique time in history. It was the business was about 40 years old, and the people who created it, who invented it, were still in it. We're still working.
Right.
And we came in and we started to replace them. Not that we were looking to push them out, but everybody comes time to move on, as I sadly learned myself later. But we came in and we took over, and we were also the first generation to want to do this for a living. Most of the guys before us, did it because they couldn't make it in advertising or commercial art or movies or whatever they were trying to do, or syndicated strips. And B, we were also the first generation that was welcomed by the companies and kind of trained. In the early 70s, DC did a couple of intern type programs. Michael Uslan came in. No, Michael didn't come in through that. David Michelinie came in as on this intern program. I think Pat Broderick also came in that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, there was the Woodchucks. DC had their Woodchucks program, which was all the junior, the early 70s, the junior editors, Paul Levitz and Michael Uslan and Jeff Rovin and a few other people. So they were also being trained to be editors. It wasn't like, Nelson Bridwell came into, Roy Thomas was hired originally at DC by Mort Weisinger. And as he told me in the interview in the book, if Weisinger hadn't been such an asshole, I wouldn't have left after 2 weeks. But he also said it was the best thing he could have done because there was no room to advance at DC because it had this entrenched editorial system. Whereas at Marvel, he 3 years later he's editor in chief. So
yeah,
but Nelson Bridwell replaced him, and Nelson was content to just be there as long as he was in the game. He took a lot of abuse from a lot of people, particularly Weisinger, and but we were the first ones who were there for a purpose. We wanted to not only write and draw comics, but take them beyond where they had been. We wanted this stuff to grow up with us, as opposed to the old way, which was you read comics from 8 to 13 and then you moved on. We kept reading, and we didn't. When you're 20 and 25, you don't want to read the comics for 13-year-olds. You want to read comics created for you.
Right.
And we were also in a time when, half the people coming into the business thought it was, we better get it in now because comics aren't going to be around much longer. There was a whole, Chaikin and Wrightson and all those guys. Kaluta is like, yeah, comics are dead in a few years, so let's get it in now. Let's do it now, and then we'll move on to other things. Suckers.
No, now it's going to die in a few years. That's what I hear. Digital
comics have been dying since I've been reading them. So, yeah.
They keep getting resuscitated.
Yeah. So we're unfortunately coming up in an hour because we could just have you on just talking for another hour or 2 or 3. But I guess anything we can just read the book for more of those great stories. But thank you so much, Paul, for coming on again. And these stories have been absolutely great and very insightful. And honestly, I think I can speak for the group that we can't wait to help you get to 4,000 and more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Gary, take it away.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what all do you have coming up con-wise? And where would you like people to get in touch with you on social media?
Well, I will be at Terrificon in August in Connecticut. And on social media, I'm on Facebook, I'm on X, I'm on Blue Sky. And or you could check out my website at paulkupperberg.net.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, sir. And we will see you at Terrificon.
Don't forget about the recording, remember?
Yeah, when you leave the studio, remember just hit the little red one, and there'll be like a link to an upload thing. It'll just keep you uploading. And then when you hit 100%, you're good.
All righty. I don't have to be here for that. I can walk away.
No, you can do whatever you want.
Well, I will then.
Good. Great. Thank you for being
Grab
here,
a drink
sir.
for us.
Thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. See you at Terrificon.
Oh, it's pleasure.
Will do.
Will do.
All right, guys. We did it again.
He's still here.
Oh.
Jeremy is alert.
Where'd Drew go? Now we've done it again.
Okay, we did it. All right, we did it.
Did we lose a Drew? No.
I'm right here. All right.
Excelsior!